You gotta think for a second. If 5% Deku can smash rocks and shit like that, 8% on them legs, I fear for Bakugou. Like, I fear for Bakugou. He's gonna have crippling depression after this shit because Deku right now going in. Honestly, this chapter, right now, My Hero Academia, this is my favorite stuff since I've been reviewing the manga. I mean, throughout the entirety of the manga for the most part, this is one of my favorite bits. Like, this is up there in the top 5 or whatever because this rematch right now, first of all, it kind of came as a surprise. I did not expect to see Deku versus Bakugou this soon again. Like, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But in the chapter, you're getting to see a little bit more of Bakugou's mindset and why is he so pissed off with Deku and why he's continuing to feel the way he feels. I mean, it feels as though I've kind of seen this before in a way, to be honest with you. Like, the way Bakugou's thinking is like, oh, you little piece of shit, you're looking down on me this entire time. It's like, yeah, I think I've definitely seen that before. I think it's a little bit different with Bakugou because he's a little bit different of a character. It's like, he's not really like on an evil trip. He's more so just sour in a way. And also, I think one of the differences between anything I've seen with this in particular is that even though those elements are definitely similar, the one difference is the fact that they both idolize All Might. I think that's what separates Bakugou from being completely like, oh, he's like Sasuke, or oh, he's like this one or that one, Vegeta, whatever. Deku and him both have admiration and respect for All Might. So I think that's one thing that separates Bakugou from, again, being like a ripoff of other characters we've seen before. And in this fight, we definitely get to see that as more so both of them kind of speaking their piece. It's like they're speaking with fists and legs and kicks and shit like that, because it's like, it's not just fuck you, it's more so Bakugou speaking his piece and then he's gonna wreck shit, and Deku's like, yo bro, it's a misunderstanding, which essentially not that much has changed now that I think about it regarding their relationship in a sense, because I think once Bakugou started to realize Deku had powers, that was pissing him off anyways. Like, even back then when they were having the squabbles and shit like that, he was like, what the fuck do you think you are? It seems as though Deku being able to defend himself hurts Bakugou's pride. And it goes back to a theory I had regarding Bakugou in general, is the fact that even though once he got his powers, he started treating Deku like a piece of shit basically back when they were kids. Ultimately, I think one of the things that Bakugou always enjoyed, and I think hopefully it'll get revealed later on, is the fact that he was able to protect Deku. Deku was behind him. If anything happened, at the very least, he could protect his friend. Now he's realizing that his friend possibly is the one that has to protect him now. And I kind of feel as though in a way it's coming across as an inferiority complex. I hope I said that word right. But essentially he feels as though he's inferior now and it's pissing him off. But more so as well, the person that I wanted to protect now has to protect me because he's stronger and he's kind of surpassed me. And of course, I mean, personally, I can understand from a real world perspective. It's kind of like, hey, this person that was nothing all of a sudden has surpassed me. And sometimes you do feel inferior. It makes you feel like a certain way. So I get Bakugou. It does feel again like some stuff we've seen before. I already talked about, you know, the difference or whatever, but it kind of does feel like that. But at the very least, we're getting to see them overall both speaking their piece about each other. And it's interesting as well because it feels as though My Hero Academia has a long way to go, especially the fact that it is only 8% that he was using right now, Deku and shit like that. Feels as though the manga has a ways to go, but at the end of this chapter, at the very least, Deku proclaimed, I've caught up to you. And the thing is, he's only using 8%. If he used like, 100%, he'd kill Bakugou, being realistic or whatever. So it also reminds me of certain shonen aspects, like when Goku was holding back against Vegeta, like, the Super Saiyan 3 thing. Now, granted, it's a little bit different again, because Deku, he uses that power and potentially he'll break his bones to the point of no return. But also, it's like, he still is holding back. So 8% in his legs is enough to surpass or catch up to Bakugou. But I did like as well, it's kind of the classic case of bullying. Honestly, it's like he was bullied for so long and he did like him or whatever. He's like, hey man, we're supposed to be friends or whatever. Now the person that was bullied has finally said enough is enough. I'm not a little bitch. I'm going to show you right now that I'm not a little bitch. So I like that aspect as well, which is again something that is distinct about it, because I know a lot of people are going to come into this one and say, what the fuck? This is some Naruto and Sasuke shit, which it does feel like it, being realistic. It kind of feels like it in a way, but there's more of a distinct difference essentially. It's like Naruto never really was bullied bullied by Sasuke. Sasuke just didn't give a fuck. Bakugou bullied the living shit out of Deku. You little shit. He made fun of him. Deku was initially a word to like make him feel like shit, you know, a nickname that was horrible and stuff like that. So everything that Bakugou put him through, even though he wanted to be friends with him, he's turned around on him little by little. Deku, which was originally a name that was like, you know, to make him feel bad, he's like, okay, you know, I'll rock it. I'm Deku, so the fuck what? Now also him proclaiming I've surpassed you or I've caught up and shit like that. That also is him saying I'm not the kid no more. I'm not the victim no more. So I really like it in that regard. The whole theme of being bullied and finally saying enough is enough. It's honestly really a good message for kids in general as well in school, just as a side note or whatever. But honestly, yet again, awesome chapter of My Hero Academia. I really like it. Kind of curious what people are going to say though, because I know people are going to say, oh, it reminds me of this and that. And it does, but it also has its own distinct differences. It's kind of its take on that shonen trope, which I like seeing people's, you know, perspectives and their own way of telling something that kind of has been told before, but in their own manner. So I guess that's the question I want to ask you guys. Did it feel as though it was too similar to things you've seen before? Also, what do you think about the whole theory that Deku using 8%, if 5% he could break boulders, what do you think he's going to do with 8% on Bakugou's body? You think he's going to cripple this motherfucker and that'll be the end of Bakugou? Because there's something about the dialogue in the beginning of this chapter that kind of makes me worry about this fight of Deku versus Bakugou and what Deku could do to him. Because essentially, again, if Deku used 100%, he could kill him. He could legit rip him in half or whatever. But these lines of dialogue is what's making me question, like, yo, could there be a very bad outcome from all this? It may well be that by fighting with me, he simply wanted to let out his emotions that he was unable to do anything else with. And yet, even if that was the case, it may have been selfish of me, but I couldn't let him win without a fight. Looking back, my thought process was distorted. Now, the way he's saying that, you know, of course, this is in retrospect. God knows, as he's telling this tale, he's probably with a giant cape muscled up as fuck in the present, wherever the present may be. But ultimately, it's almost as if he's saying that there's going to be some bad consequences from this. I mean, granted, I'm hoping not. And there's also the possibility, because the teachers are on standby watching, that maybe it isn't going to get that serious, because if there's teachers there, ultimately, you know, erase their head. If he thinks that things are going to get dire or critical, he's probably, no matter who's stopping him, gonna say, yo, move the fuck out the way. So potentially it could very well mean that this is gonna be the greatest development for both of them as people, and also their relationship, from being, you know, Deku being the bullied kid to ultimately saying, yo, I'm side by side with you now. I'm not a little fucking shit. You're gonna treat me with some respect. Another thing as well is, since this whole problem that the two of them have is going to be resolved seemingly with this fight or whatever, unless they have a completely different relationship from here on out and Bakugou goes rogue and leaves UA or something like that, which I could potentially see him leaving UA. I don't know if he'll go rogue and be a villain. I highly doubt that's going to happen. Like, again, Bakugou is the least one that I think will be a villain. He'll be more so like an endeavor before he becomes, you know, a straight up villain or whatever. But where do you go from here if the whole conflict that they've had up until this point gets resolved this early? Assuming My Hero Academia is going to be a long running show, you know, or a long running manga, is going to go for hundreds upon hundreds of chapters. If in the early hundreds, the conflict that the main character and his, you know, best friend, I guess you could say, I don't know, like, is that his best friend, the way he treats him? But essentially his friend, one of the rivalries, of the main rivalries of this entire story, is resolved already. Could that mean that potentially My Hero Academia isn't really going to go that long? It's not going to be 400 or 500 chapters. It's going to be maybe 300 chapters, 250, because this is pretty early for this to be resolved. Again, if like Bakugou gains respect and no more treats Deku like shit, then the whole, I guess, premise of something that Deku had to resolve is already over. So that's going to be pretty early. I'm kind of curious where their relationship can go from here, if it's just going to be completely like, hey, you know, something new needs to happen in order to continue things, because again, if this is resolved, or, you know, if Bakugou beats Deku, then it's not going to be resolved, because he's going to say, I told you, you're nothing but a little shit. But if Deku defeats Bakugou, Bakugou is going to be crushed. Honestly, I think this is going to crush his character to the point where we're going to get a huge change in him, and we're going to see something totally different from Bakugou that we haven't seen up until this point. So I think the outcome of this is very vital to the rest of the story, especially between these two, their relationship, because again, Bakugou loses, he's going to be crushed. He will gain some respect for Deku, but it's not going to be the same. Deku loses, it's going to be like, I told you you're a bitch, sit down. So I'm really interested to see the outcome of what happens, because it's going to shape the story and the remainder of My Hero Academia, however many chapters we may have left, whether it be 100 or 500. And I guess the biggest question, who's going to take it? Do you think Bakugou is going to knock him on his ass once again, or do you think that Deku is going to just straight up shit on him? Do you think Deku is going to really hurt him using 8% of his legs? Because of course the legs are even more stronger than the arms in general, so even 5% of the legs is going to be worse than 5% of the punch, but then 8%, yeah, it's gonna get critical. And your overall thoughts of this chapter? Honestly, My Hero Academia right now is at an all-time high since the All for One arc. Like, it hasn't been this awesome since then. The last arc was, this arc right now is starting off with a bang, having a rematch between Bakugou, the fucking insane Pussy Slayer X, and fucking Deku. They're like, I'm not being bullied no more. Honestly, again, I really just enjoy that message. That's fucking awesome. And your overall thoughts of this. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.